Ahoj everyone! Thank you for joining us again for the fourth episode. Today is gonna be a little bit more complicated episode again, but not too much, I hope. Let me know if there are any problems with audio, any technical issues or anything. And if everything is fine, we can just start, because I fear it's gonna be a little bit longer than the others. So, today we talk about literature, books. If you like books, it's probably because you like the storyline, or maybe because you like the characters, you like the experiences they live, and you feel like them. And feeling like the characters in the book gives you emotions, because what's happening in the book is you can relate to it just like if it was your life. But not all books are like this, actually. For example, what I enjoy the most in a book is the theme, is the message the author wants to share with the readers. And in some cases, the storyline is not even so important, or is not there at all. For example, Virginia Woolf used to say that the plot is just a bait for journalists, and what is really important is the theme, the ideas you are trying to communicate. And personally, I really like when an author is able to create harmony between all the elements. For example, It by Stephen King is one of my favorite books because on one side it's just the story of these kids who find out about this monster and they have to save the town. But at the same time, it's also an amazing lesson about childhood and adulthood, about time, about how our past and our fears and our traumas are always with us, and as adults we have to learn to cope with them, to face them, if we want to have a good life, and many other things. Really an amazing book. In some other cases, there is not even a real theme. There are some books which are even just about the form. What we discussed until this moment is the content, is what the book is trying to say. But sometimes books are just about the form, the beauty of the language, the way the writer writes, the composition of the book. And again, in cases like this, there is not even a real storyline. There are just events written in a beautiful way, and it's just to enjoy what is written. Because if you're really good, you can actually communicate a lot just with the form, just with the way you write, just with the way you put words in the book, without creating a real storyline. So, after saying these things about content and form, and about how form can be important and can stand on its own, we can transition to the theme of the podcast, postmodern literature. We slowly get to understand what postmodern means. During the age of enlightenment, between the 17th and 18th centuries, the focus was mainly about human reason, about the position of man in the universe. Man was the center of the universe, the best creature. He was the only one with reason, and reason was what made human special. After some periods, after some centuries, especially between the 19th and 20th centuries, some new discoveries started to make these ideas a little bit problematic. For example, we had Darwin's evolutionism taught us that we are not such a great creature we thought, and we have to rethink our position as mankind. And then we also, at the beginning of the 20th century, we had Freud, and he taught us that our reason is not perfect as we thought, and there are some deeper layers that we were ignoring, and so we can't even rely on our reason. And also in the sciences, we've had Einstein and quantum physics that taught us that even reality is not how we thought it was, and we even have to rethink our knowledge about science and about reality in general. So, after all these new discoveries, modernism at the beginning of the 20th century is a reaction to these new problems, and if the position of man in the universe is not the one we thought it was, we have to do something new, we have to gain a new position, we have to innovate, to do something new, to evolve, to create new values, if what we thought was true is actually not. While postmodernism, it just means after modernism, and to make it very simple, it is a cynical version of modernism. Also because in between there have been two world wars, so this is part of why this cultural current is so cynical. And just like modernism, also postmodernism acknowledges that we don't have that privileged position as mankind anymore. But while modernism was trying to do something new, to innovate, to create new values, postmodernism is just about doing nothing. It's just about contemplation. There is nothing new to communicate. There are no big truths. And if we don't have any values, any big truth, anything to rely on, it's pointless to try to create something new, because trying to create new values is always going to be a failure, something limited to a certain history period, certain years, and it's not going to last. So it's useless trying to communicate something or to create anything new. And as a consequence, postmodern writers try to state this truth, but not through content, because through content you can say anything. Everything you try to say is going to be biased and limited to your period of time, biased by your positions, by your ideas. So they try to communicate this stuff only through form. Postmodern books are a mess, are often just a sequence of events without a real storyline that go one after the other, almost without a real meaning. There is no main storyline, characters are messy and ambiguous, and the writing style is so hard, so complicated, so devoid of context, that the writer is intentionally trying to exclude the reader from what he's trying to say. Because in the end he's trying to say nothing, he's not trying to communicate with the reader. He's just showing, oh look how intelligent I am. I know that all reality is stupid and there is no big truth to communicate, and I'm just showing you this through my book. So in the end, many postmodern books are just void, empty, beautifully written pieces of literature that try to say nothing. Postmodernism is the triumph of nihilism and relativism. You can say anything you want. In the end, nothing of what you say is gonna matter. And if you dare to show emotions in your books, in your works, if you dare to state something true, something you really care about, something you really believe, you just end up as a simple-minded and naive writer. Like, oh, what the hell are you saying? We know at this point that the values you are trying to say are limited to your biases, to your ideas, and to your period of time. It's not like you can affirm anything new. So the main tool used by these authors is irony. And by irony, we mean something very specific in this case. We mean saying something while actually meaning the opposite. This is the only way you can try to say something without seeming naive and simple-minded. Like, do you actually care about that person? Oh yes, I love her so much. Because otherwise, if you dare to show your emotions, to affirm something new, you are considered just naive, like not acknowledging the new knowledge about the universe. So now, why this writer? Why David Foster Wallace? Because he was one of the few who actually tried to be postmodern without being postmodern. In the beginning, David Foster Wallace just embraced this new cultural current. His first novel is a complete mess. He's just trying to say, oh, look how smart I am, look how postmodern I am. I can write this beautiful book without actually saying anything. It's just a series of random events with no meanings. They are just so beautifully written, and only I can fully understand the meaning of what I'm saying, but actually the reader is here just to enjoy what I'm writing, and he can understand nothing in the end. And of course full of irony, full of these tricks. But then, after going through depression, after going through drug addiction and other personal problems, he realized that this was not the world he wanted. He actually wanted to affirm something new, to propose new values, to share his ideas and his emotions with the readers. And he was inspired in particular by Fyodor Dostoevsky, one of the most famous Russian writers, and he was the one who, more than anyone else, was able to study the human mind, the human nature, human emotions, and share his thoughts about these topics in his books. So then, after some years, Wallace wanted to do something different. But how can you share your emotions, your ideas with your public if there is the risk to be considered simple-minded and naive by the presumptuous and arrogant readers who just want to see a postmodern writer showing the truth about the world being without any truth? The strategy of Wallace was to write with a postmodern form, but with a normal content. His most famous book, Infinite Jest, is a complete mess. Is a 1079 pages long book with hundreds and hundreds of notes at the end which tell major parts of the story. And there is a sort of storyline, like three main storylines, one about teenagers in a tennis academy, one about drug addicts in a recovery center, and one about this dystopic future society where companies have taken control of the world. But everything is so messy, so without context, that the storylines are actually not so much important in the end. As a postmodern book, it is mainly a series of almost random events that try to say something. But this is the most important point. These random events actually have a meaning for Wallace, are actually trying to say something. And in telling these events, Wallace is trying to share his ideas and his emotions and his vision of the world about themes like love, hate, sport, effort, and human nature in general. And the postmodern form, this thing of creating a complicated series of events where you understand almost nothing, there are flashbacks and flash forwards, and the storyline is so messy, and there are always new characters. In the beginning, this form was used just to show that there is no bigger truth. There is nothing to communicate, to exclude the reader from the book. While in this case, in the end, there is some content. There is something Wallace is trying to share with the reader. So this form actually becomes a way to force the reader to put effort in what he's reading and join a sort of conversation with the author. And if you actually put effort, if you actually try to understand what the author is saying, because in this case he is trying to say something, then you join this conversation and you understand the author's point of view about the world. You understand his ideas, and you have avoided the risk to seem simple-minded and naive, because you have already shown the reader that you know all these stupid things about the world having no meaning and being relativist and nihilist and all this stuff. Infinite Jest is not easy reading. If you are a bit interested, maybe you can try Brief Interviews with Hideous Men. It's a collection of short stories. It's probably my favorite book from Wallace. And in this book, he mostly explores the themes of love and sexuality. Before ending, I would like to share with you the beginning of this speech that Wallace had in Kenyon College in Ohio.
Greetings, thanks, and congratulations to Kenyon's graduating class of 2005. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" This is a standard requirement of U.S. commencement speeches, the deployment of didactic little parable-ish stories. The story thing turns out to be one of the better, less bullshitty conventions of the genre. But if you're worried that I plan to present myself here as the wise older fish explaining what water is to you younger fish, please don't be. I am not the wise old fish. The point of the fish story is merely that the most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. Stated as an English sentence, of course, this is just a...
Okay. This is basically the end of it. If you are interested in the speech, you just have to type "this is water." It's a 20 minutes long speech, and it just gets better and better. It really helps you to put things in perspective, I think. It's very beautiful. So, sorry if this was long and a bit complicated. I still hope you enjoyed it. And we are gonna meet again for next week podcast. Thank you very much. Bye.